Let me tell you, this coronavirus is scary. I used to spin the toilet paper roll like it was the Wheel of Fortune. Now I'm doing it like I'm cracking a safe. So we're really conserving on that. We're in a brave new world. We were debating earlier, do we call this social distancing? Do we call it work from home? What do we call it? But the important thing is we just know as authors and speakers, everything's changing. And I don't want you to be discouraged. I want this to be an hour of encouragement. There's things we can do. We can take action. Never been a better time to get your book finished, that's for sure. And there's never been a better time to get prepared because the book is the starting line. Speaking is the finish line. But we don't have to wait for this to be over to speak. There's a lot of opportunities. Like many of you, I've had all my dates canceled for the next 90 days. And I'm in negotiations on doing things virtually and still reaching out. So that's what this is about. I am not the expert. I'm the convener here. And I was so gratified we have 3 experts with us to be generous today and to give information. How this is going to work is each one's going to give us their best tips for about 10 minutes. Anytime you have a question, use that chat feature. It's at the bottom right there on your screen. And type a question in on chat. And Devin is my producer today, and she's monitoring that. At the end of each people giving their talk, then I'm going to interview them with questions. I'll call on them, give a question. Some will be the questions you provide. Oh, I got questions to ask them too. So we got plenty of things to ask. So welcome to the How to Present Virtually Summit. And this is just going to be the first of many no-cost Zoom summits that we're going to do to help us all get through this and thrive. So that's my point. So here we're going to start. It's very informal, but first up is Judy Carter. Was so gratified that Judy would join us. She was a hit at the forum, certainly. And Judy is a million seller. Yeah, but between the two of us, Judy and I have sold 1 million books. And now we've published her new comedy Bible, and we want to sell more. Welcome, Judy. Take it away.
Hey, hi everybody. Yeah, if you have any questions, this is about webinars, isn't it right, Henry? About using webinars to promote your book and how do you start one?
Yes, webinars, virtual things, anything that, since we can't get people in a room, what can we still do to talk to the prospects?
Okay, well, everybody, I hope you're having an enjoyable quarantine. My life hasn't changed much from the quarantine, to tell you the truth, because as an entrepreneur, you know, that's a French word meaning I work all the time. I work in my underwear. I'm always working, and most of the time from my home. And I've used doing webinars to promote my book, and it's been going really, really well. So I thought I would give you some tips. First of all, if you want, you might want to get your own brick wall. You can get it from eBay. I have several backgrounds. I kind of like to have, if I'm doing a comedy thing, I'll put a brick wall behind me so it kind of gives a look. So it's like totally cheap, 20 bucks. You can get different backgrounds. And also on Zoom, you can also get a green background and you just kind of hang it in your office like, you know, like that. Look, I'm giving away all my secrets, everybody. Shit, I thought you were doing it from a comedy club. Anyway, it's just like some pegs and it comes with that stand. All right, so that's what you want. The other thing that you might want to do is you need to get a mic. You just can't use the mic in the camera to do a webinar. And I also want to get to, like, you know, how to get people to come to your webinar. This mic is really good. It is, here it is. It's a USB mic. This is really not very expensive, under $200. It's called, you can look at it, take a screenshot of it if you want. But it's really good because it's cheap and has great sound quality. I'm not using it right now, but it also has a USB plug, goes right into your computer, and you can also put your headphones in there. Really good. What I like to use on something like that when it's video, That is a directional mic. Okay, so that means that I don't have a big phallus in front of me, although I don't know, might be an attraction for some people. But for me, I don't know, because I had this and I was kind of like, do I really want to look like this for my whole, not so much. So anyway, so I have this, it's called a directional mic, okay? One other thing, this is really great, and you can get it on Amazon. Again, I'm kind of a gadget girl, so I like this stuff, and I feel like we're only good as our equipment. And we can have great information, but if you want anything technical, getting away with it. Hey, look at this, guys. This is such a great light. It's an LED light, and I just hook it like right above me. It has kind of this, I'm not doing it today, but, and then you just turn it on, and you can just stick it anyway. If I was using a green screen, I would use this to light my green screen, put on a mic stand, stick it up. I just have a little office in my home, but it's been the site of many Facebook Lives and a lot of engagement. So any questions about the equipment or anything like that so far? You can just, I'll start it, write your questions here. Okay, so let me talk just really briefly, because I only have 10 minutes. I want to talk about some of the most important aspects of why you do a webinar. You do a webinar, and you don't have to do a lot of them. If you just do one really good one, it has to be on a topic that your specific audience wants to hear, okay? It can't be selling. It's like free. Matter of fact, today, I just added over 1,200 people to my mailing list of rabid fans. How did I do this? I'm giving away my entire university for free. And it's like, I was charging $770 a year, and I decided to just give it free. So what you do as a webinar is the same philosophy. You're only good at how many fans you have, how many followers you have, and what people think of you. And if you're shooting people information, which is buy my book, buy, whatever you want to do, you'll turn everybody off. So my philosophy has been to really give great value to people. That's why the people on my mailing list never opt out. I have one of the lowest dropout rates of active campaign told me, you're our lowest. And why? Because people get such value of what I give them. I make sure what I give them is quality. Okay, so let's talk about the topic of your webinar. You should Google it and see how popular it is. With Google AdWords, you just can get a free account, and you can put in the topic of your webinar. And if it just gets 10 hits a month, you don't want to do that topic. You want to do something that's really hot. And it might not be the title of your book. It might be a way to rephrase it. Okay, so I highly suggest seeing what are the keywords of your webinar and how much are people searching it. And you want to get in that sweet spot of not like 5 million people are searching for this topic because I'm talking on leadership. No, you want a niche topic. So you want a topic that maybe gets like, 500, 600 hits a month to maybe 1,000, 2,500, but keep it smaller, because, if you're doing leadership advice, it would be so much better to be, leadership advice when working in Albuquerque, because you got yourself a smaller lane. So I was wondering, Henry, can I share my computer with them? I'll try it. Henry?
You can try.
Okay, let me just go here. Okay, so here's a way to get people to come to your webinar. And when I was with you guys in La Jolla, and I think I've been quarantined enough to go we're safe, right? Well, I just was talking to all of you about really finding your lane. And that means, who is your audience? So my audience is pretty easy. It's speakers and comics. So when I do a Facebook ad, of something like this. So I'm having tomorrow let me see if I have this up here. Oh, I did. No, I'm having tomorrow a free comedy jam online at noon tomorrow, LA time. So I want to promote it. And so what I do is they ask me, well, what age group do I want? What gender do I want? Detailed target marketing. And in the detailed target marketing, oh, shoot. Here, wait, audience, ad set, audience. Use saved audience. Okay, so here's some saved audiences. So I don't know if you can see this, but you can go on Facebook and go, okay, I want people who are Toastmasters, public speaking, they're into a stand-up comedy group, they're motivational speaking, or their job title is motivational speaker. So you need to do this to find your audience, because this is just such a way. And like for $40, you can get a lot of people attending. And then if you give them really good value, you could pretty much keep them enrolled and engaged with what you're doing. So let me just see what some of this else, The Onion, speaker bureaus. Anyway, so you could really narrow who your audience is. So you can never just go, oh, I want to talk to teachers. It's too big. Make it, Montana teachers or teachers in leadership. So you really have to find your lane. And that really comes from finding your message. And so I just want to say, I think my 10 minutes is probably up, but I'm giving this away for free. So you might as well get on the bandwagon. I will put this in the chat. Let me see when I can find it. But I'll put this in the chat, and you can go in here. And so here are all the webinars that I do. So these are the kind of webinars I do for people who are interested in becoming speakers. I have a storytelling webinar, how to find the message of you, finding your heart story, how to make the media love you, how to pitch yourself to the media, 3 essentials. So you see all of this value. Now, before I used to sell all this content and $770. And believe me, we had a lot of people go through the university and come out making a lot of money. But I've decided, mostly because of the coronavirus and everything, and that I feel like people can make a difference from having this information, I'm just giving away for free. So how do you end up making money if you're giving away all for free? Well, I'll tell you how. The answer to that is that, let's say just tomorrow I'm doing a webinar. I'm doing a webinar on Zoom, and I'm broadcasting to Facebook Live. And it's just a comedy jam. And what it is I take, I don't seem to have a copy of it, but I have my book, The New Comedy Bible, and there's exercises in my book. So they're going to go in, I go, okay, everybody turn to page 5. Let's work through this. Well, I would say 50% of the people who are in it, just like, oh, it's free, I want to go to it, don't have the book. They're going to feel pretty left out. I don't go buy my book. I just go, everybody turn to page 5. They're not going to be able to. And then they'll go and buy the book. So there's that kind of selling that we do now, is we have to give away a lot. And then when people start to love how their life improves from knowing you, and they start getting successful, it all comes back to you. All comes back to you. So it's a new model right now with the virus and everything, and people working from home. It's, online classes rock. People are looking for things to do, and certainly things to read. And webinars are a great way to do that. And scene.
And scene. Okay.
And scene, as we say in Hollywood.
Thank you very much, Judy. Thank you.
Oh, let's see. They have.
If you haven't read Judy's book, The Message of You, you're missing out. One of my clients who I've worked with for years, Frank King, we were in a conversation once about how that book changed his life.
Oh yeah, Frank now works for me.
Yeah.
He's now helping he's been really successful doing coaching for me and helping people find TED Talks so that people come through the Message of You University.
Yeah.
But that's the thing. It's like, even when we do coaching, we go, when people go, hey, I think you have a really good idea there. Oh, let's talk about it. Call. Let's see if this is a good fit. It's all about connecting people. That's what it's about. And the webinar is a way to connect people, because that's what everybody's craving now, because we have to keep 6 feet away, and everybody's pretty lonely. And very many people are lonely to the point of being desperate. And I'm trying to do something to help people use this time to really, improve themselves. And that's what I'm doing. So I hope you guys join me. I can answer more questions. I was going to put in my, let's see, how do I do this? Everyone.
So we're not going to handle questions for Judy now. We're going to handle questions for everybody, but keep the questions coming. It's Judy, just a comment on that. It's hard being an extrovert these days. So I just wanted all you introverts to know that the struggle is real. Please keep talking to us. Our next presenter is Eleni Kelakos. Eleni is working with us on a book. She's one of our authors. Also, she's going to be one of the keynoters at the forum next March. We just love her to death. A former New York and Hollywood actress turned presentation coach and singer-songwriter and so much more. Eleni, thanks for being with us today. You've got the floor.
Oh, yay. First of all, it's just so nice to see people beside my husband and my 2 cats. I'm just so grateful. And if a little cattail goes by like this, you'll know that that's my little beloved kitty, Cicely, who always likes to visit, especially when I'm working with my coaching clients. I am someone who, like probably several of you, really likes a live audience. I mean, I'm a theater baby, and I'm a singer-songwriter. I like the connection that you have when you are in front of a live audience. And so I kind of went kicking and screaming into the virtual world. And the irony is that I have this big, beautiful office in there. I don't know if you can see, but I got this really nice, cool office. And over the past year or so, I've hardly used it. Most of my coaching clients are virtual now, something I never thought would happen. And from a speaker standpoint and a training standpoint, I'm out there training people on how to be more effective when they get up in front of other people to speak. And mostly what I'm trying to do is remind them to be real human beings, flaws and all. And though mostly I do that live, I was telling Henry, I also do these funny hybrid versions. I've certainly done, quote, webinars using my expertise, but most often when I'm giving my basic talk, my think like an actor, speak like a pro, foundational talk, if I'm working virtually, it's in a hybrid form. And I want to help you think about that a little bit, because there's all kinds of ways to do this, And the way that I tend to look at this, when I say a hybrid form, I mean partially live, which we can't exactly do right now, but partially live with some people, virtual, which takes a little bit of thinking ahead of time, setting up cameras in a thoughtful manner, and making sure above all, and to me this is everything, that everyone's involved. Because when it comes down to it, as a theater person, what I believe is that there is this thing, and it's called the sacred stage. And I don't care whether you are in front of a massive audience on a proscenium stage or sitting in front of your computer, but your job as a speaker is to honor the sacred stage. And that means being prepared. It means having what I call your 3 presence planes: your vocal presence, your physical presence and your energetic presence alive and kicking. And it's more important than ever when you're in front of this thing that you're all staring at. This is the place where I kind of like to take my flag and plant it. I believe that we're going to have to be dealing with this screen a lot over the next few months. And there's two things I really want to say. One is that if you are at all like me and you are hesitant, or you're thinking, oh, Lordy, this is terrifying to me. You know, this is technology. I'm not a geek. And you're thinking, this seems so incredibly complicated. What I have to tell you, since I'm a couple of big toes ahead of you, is dive in. The only way to get good at this is the same way you get good at speaking live. And it's by flinging yourself into it and being willing to be messy and imperfect. To me, that's critical here. And you have to be willing to do that, because all kinds of stuff is going to go wrong. I mean, I'm looking at Henry, and I'm sure, you know, Henry, nod if that's the case with you as you, right. So I think that there's all kinds of things to think about with regard to being able to bring yourself to this platform. The first is you have to actually ask yourself, who am I? What do people say about me when I am speaking live? And how do I translate that to this platform? Because the fact is, the more willing you are to translate whatever you're doing now as speakers to this platform, the more people you're going to reach, especially during this bizarre, weird time. And thinking about it, you know, I know, for example, that if on the little evaluations people will write about me, they'll say things like enthusiastic, passionate, interactive. Think about the words that people use to describe you as a speaker, because that's what you want to replicate. And you can do this more than you think. If you can get over the headset, which I had to do, I really did have to work on my head, and see the opportunity that you have here. There are all kinds of incredible tools that you can use. And I happen, by the way, I really, really like Zoom. I'm a Zoom baby. So all the tools that I like in Zoom that are interactive, to me, are of great value. You can poll people. You can actually break people out into little rooms, which I like to do. I often will do small groups of 10 or 12, and I'll do it in a meeting format versus a webinar format. And in the meeting format, I have the opportunity, especially, to do what I would do in a normal session, which is get people to hang out in little groups and do exercise work together. I can even divide people up into pairs and have them work together. And I've been known to even have people pick up their phone and call each other, call their designated partner, and tell stories to one another or share a presentation together. Your imagination is incredible. You have to help yourself look at an existing presentation and think, if I were in my audience's shoes, what would I need to stay engaged? Because that's what it's all about. In truth, your audience is going to have the attention span of a gnat. You're not in the room with them. So you've got to talk less, show more slides, horrors, and constantly shake it up. I mean, right now, I could ask you to all stand up, and in fact, I'm going to just take a moment and stand up, stand up, stand up, and let's see a little bootay, a little bootay, a little bootay, a little bootay. Very nice. And can you do me a favor, please? And on the count of 3, 1, 2, 3, I want you to point at the earth and say, I am here. 1, 2, 3, I am here. Now, some of you probably did that. Some of you might not have. But I got to tell you, the only thing that limits you from leaping into this is fear and a lack of imagination. You have much more imagination than you think. So I strongly suggest that if you are not already giving this a shot, that you just fling your arms wide and dive in and try it with people you love. My chapter, my National Speakers Association chapter, we're getting together in little groups, and we're actually giving virtual presentations to one another. We're using Zoom and we're learning the tools. I strongly suggest you do this. Pick a little handful of people, go in there, play with the tools. And by the way, Zoom has some fantastic tutorials. The other thing I want to say to you is I'm working on putting together a fairly extensive and as interactive as possible virtual presentation on presenting virtually, and I'm giving it away bluntly. And if you're interested in attending it, I'm going to do a couple of them within the next couple of weeks. Just let me know, okay? But you're welcome to join, and I'll send you the link. I'll get you involved. All right. And Henry, will you do me a favor, please? Will you please put Eleni at the Eleni group in the chat?
Can I have Devin do that for you?
Yeah, Devin, will you please do that for me?
I'm a delegator.
Thank you for doing that, because for some reason, I'm having a little technical problem with my mouse. And this is the last thing that I want to say, and then kind of hand it over to Dez.
Well, thank you, Eleni. And that was so inspiring. I know Judy and some other people, we started out in theater. I was in the writing program, but I got to hang out with great people like you. So it brought me back there. I wanted to tell everybody we're recording this, and we're going to send the links for the equipment and the other things that we're mentioning. And Judy's put some links in there. So links are great. So we'll be doing that. So our next presenter is Dez Thornton. And Dez has spoken at the forum. He's working on a book right now. He's doing a great job with coaching some of our authors on TED Talks. He has a background with TEDx Talks and being a coach there. And he's going to be one of our keynoters next year at the forum next March. So Dez, thank you so much for being with us. And I'm going to turn it over to you.
My pleasure, Henry. Thank you for the opportunity. So one thing that I learned is you definitely don't want to go behind Eleni when you're presenting. So thank you for that. I appreciate it. Well, I just have a short list, Henry. So, you know, I'm a pragmatist. And so the way that I approach this is just a short list of things to do before you actually get onto your webinar chat, and then things that you may want to do during your webinar chat. And some of these things are more technical in nature. I think Eleni did a great job of covering some of the things that I had here. So I certainly won't go over those things again. And I'm sure that we could use that time for questions from the audience. The main thing that I wanted to reiterate, and Eleni did a great job of illustrating this point, is the fact that when you're behind the screen, as opposed to being on the stage or in front of the audience, I use the terminology, you lose some of your tools. And so just because you're not face-to-face and interactive with the audience, there's going to be a drop-off, which means that you as the presenter have to compensate in some way. And I think you want to do that compensation. The best way to do that is with enthusiasm. One of the things that I try to make sure that I do all the time before I present online is to test and retest my connections to make sure that things work. So we all know as authors and presenters, when you're on stage, that it's not a matter of if technology is going to fail you, it's when. And so when we put ourselves in these predicaments where we're using Zoom and all of these other types of online features, those things can still happen. But as we all know, the name of the game is to take care of those things that you can take care of in advance. And so one of the things that I make a habit of doing is just recording myself for a few minutes prior to the presentation, just to make sure that my technology is working properly, and also so that I can get a look at myself and I can see what it is my audience is listening to and also seeing. As far as your content is concerned, I think it's critically important for you to write down in advance your key takeaways, or write down in advance the goals that you want to accomplish with your audience. Particularly the longer your presentation, you want to make sure that you have these things flushed out. And one of the things that I typically do, one of my sort of tricks to presenting online to make sure that audiences are engaged, is I always say at the beginning of the presentation that I tell the audience that I'm going to check in with them periodically. And so I'm going to call on someone to just tell me back or play back what they heard. And so I use the term, run that back for me, or tell me, something that you heard, to make sure that people are engaged. And I'll also let the audience know that I may ask the question at any time. And I think that sort of puts them in that whole mind frame that we all had when we were in school. No one wants to be called on by the teacher and not be prepared. So I think if you can set that up, that framework in the beginning, to let your audience know that it's going to be engaging, it's going to be interactive, and you may call on them to participate, again, going back to this idea of interaction, then it raises the chances that the audience will indeed connect with you. I believe, as others have said, that microphones, headsets, all those things are extremely important. And when given the opportunity, Eleni, thank you for that demonstration. I also like to stand up when possible, because I believe that that has a dramatic effect on your energy and what you're transferring through the screen. And so if it makes sense for you and you're in an environment where you can do it, certainly stand up, sit down, change it up to the extent possible. A couple of quick things, last quick things is plant questions with your audience. And so I like to plant questions with my audience. So if I know a few of the folks that I'm going to be speaking to, I may say, hey, I'm going to ask you this question, so just be prepared to answer it. Just like presenting face-to-face, sometimes audience members are hesitant to ask questions. Because of the technology, they may be even more hesitant to ask questions. And so what I would typically do is, if I know someone who's going to be in the presentation, or if I've had a conversation with the organizer prior to the start of the meeting, I may ask them or let them know that I'm going to ask them a few questions. Two last quick points that I think are very important is more slides, as Eleni said. So make sure, as far as your slides are concerned, that they're not filled with content. So the exact same thing that you want to do in person, you don't want too much information on your slides, but you do want to keep the graphics, and probably have more graphics than you would when you're presenting face-to-face, because it just switches the medium a bit and it allows you to keep your audience engaged. And then the last thing is to summarize your key points. And so by summarizing the key points, I just mean that, after you've talked for a while, what folks have a tendency to do on video is lose this idea, because they are typically in a room presenting by themselves. They'll do a silo presentation for 10 or 15 minutes and not check in with the audience. So what I'm suggesting to you is plan for those opportunities where you can check in with the audience, ask them if they have any questions, and also ask for feedback from your audience. So Henry, I'll end there.
Well, that won't be the last. We'll be asking you questions. Thank you so much, Dez.
Okay.
And I wanted to go to Judy for a question here. And so we'll bring Judy back up. And the question that I have for Judy is about the start of her webinars. And what I'm going to do is post a webinar that I did with Judy in January. And something I admired about her was the whole countdown to the webinar starting.
I'll show them that.
And then also, she really wanted to make sure we had polls, not just at the start, but throughout. So to Dez's point, we got to keep waking them up. You can share your screen, you can share anything you have, but you can certainly share the PowerPoint.
Let me share.
Share.
Share my
Judy, would you
screen.
share for us, please?
Yeah, I got it. I could do this.
Okay.
Okay, so can you all see this? Nod your head, yes, no?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so this was the webinar I did, and this is a PowerPoint, right? This is in the creation part, just to show you. So I start with just a very simple slide of what it is. Give something for people to look at, but for a half hour, I kind of switch it up. I keep clicking. Okay, it's going to be in 30 minutes. And then I have iTunes music playing from my, Google or whatever app I have music playing, but I have to shut it off when I start the recording because I don't want to have to pay royalties. So anyway, so this is what they see. They go like this, they're going like this. Come on, get ready for some insider information. So the lead up to it, because I like a lot of people to load up, like for my webinars, because they cap off at 100, a lot of people want to get into them. So then I go, okay, we're starting in 5, get comfortable, not too comfortable, 4. It's like, and then I have, I downloaded some music from the, rock music, over it that you can buy on Audible Monkey, I think it's called. And it's like, was it $20? I bought license for this kind of indie sounding thing that I really liked. It's really upbeat. And then it goes like this. I'm putting on lipstick, 2 minutes. Come on, don't webinar and drive. I mean, I'm kind of creating a lot of excitement. Let's go. Time is up. Okay. And then I have just a little short video that introduces the webinar. I probably can't hear the music, but it just goes, all right, I had a guy in the Philippines do it, and then how to write and get your book published. Now, this is the most important thing, is this slide. People love this kind of slide. And I animate it, so I don't know, can I play this slide? And so it pops up. Hi, welcome, this is a webinar. This is what you're going to learn today. 3 biggest blunders first-time authors make that tank their books. How to market your book so other people other than your relatives will buy it. 7 ways authors get paid to promote their book. Okay, boom. This is what we're going to learn today. And I have to tell you something. I've done webinars with some really creative people, like comics. And you know how comics are. They smoke a little pot. They're off. They're in another direction. And I got, even though it was really valuable information that this, comic/producer gave, I got hate mail to a free webinar, people. And the hate mail was, you didn't get to bullet number 4. It's like people take these bullets so friggin' seriously. It is crazy. So then I do this, and then I'll do a poll. Where are you calling from? And then I say, okay, let me tell you who I am. I was a comic. I was traveling with Prince, Then I started doing corporate events, right? And then I've written these books, right? And these are my new books. And now, if you stay to the end, I'm going to give you a special offer. Okay, so stay to the end, there's a special offer where I give them something for free, right? And that starts my relationship with them. So, and in this case, this was for Henry, and he gave away some stuff for free, a free evaluation. This is how we do it. And scene.
Thank you so much, Judy.
Look what I got. Look what I'm drinking out of.
Oh, yeah. Product placement. I guess I owe you $1. So thank you for that. And then This is recorded, and I believe in R&D, rob and duplicate. So we need to rob and duplicate that strategy from Judy. Just make it your own. There was a lot of.
I didn't realize how much I know about these webinars till I started doing them.
It's like you're an expert or something. Okay.
I don't know.
Well, let's go to some questions.
I'll tell you something funny. Can I just say something funny?
Yes.
Because of the quarantine and and the Verona. I heard that if you look old, they don't tend to you as quickly. So I'm doing my roots at home. It's just like you got to look good when you get to the hospital.
Right.
Just saying.
Yeah. Set that up. Now you'll do the act out about, oh, I think we're going to pass on her, but this one looks good. Okay.
True.
If you don't know what the act out is, buy the New Comedy Bible.
Oh,
How's that?
wait, what? What did you say? The new book is hilarious.
Somebody called me the other day, and it was Sunday. They said, I'm reading a book. It's called Persuade with a Story. That's my book. And I said, that's by my favorite American author. So, Judy, your favorite American author, Judy Carter. Okay, I'm going to go to Dez on this. Let's bring Dez on. I'd like to get his opinion on this question. There we go. Dez, live versus recorded webinars. So Facebook Live or doing a webinar like we're doing now and then recording it and offering it. So of the 113 people who signed up, 51 showed up today. Mm-hmm. So those are 50 some other people who were interested in this. So we'll send them a link. Dez, what's your opinion on this live versus recorded?
Opinion, Henry, meaning which of the two do I prefer?
Yes, what do you prefer?
Okay.
And then the follow-up and why.
Okay. I certainly prefer the live. So similar to the ladies who preceded me, I'm used to being on a platform in front of a live audience, as are most of us. And so I think that if I know that people are on live or watching live, I think there's just an energy transfer there. So looking at the numbers here with you saying that there are 50 people out there, although we're all looking into screens, we know that we are in fact connecting with 50 souls. I had some training in broadcasting, and one of the most challenging things for me in that process initially was getting comfortable with the camera and trying to make the camera a person. So for me, knowing that no one is actually watching if it is a recording is a little bit more challenging, but I think it goes back to the great point that Eleni made. It's all about enthusiasm. And so as a presenter, you have to be able to pull that enthusiasm off, but it's really important that it also comes across as authentic. And so to answer the question specifically, I think that it's easier for me to pull off that enthusiasm authentically when I know that, number one, there's a huge audience in front of me, which is not an option right now. So my second, I guess, choice would be to know that, there are some bodies or there's some eyes watching live.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to bring up Eleni now. Let's bring up Eleni. And it's going to be a similar question, Eleni, about live versus webinars. Your presentation really brought back that I had television training too. And I thought, oh, I think it's time to tap into it. And a lot of it was the energy level you have to have, and that you get shrunk on this. I hated doing webinars where you were talking to people in the dark. I'm liking this Zoom format, but I'd like to know, what do you prefer? Live versus recorded, or what's your feeling on that and why?
My gut reaction, of course, is to say live because I do love live. But at the same time, when I moved from New York to LA, I had to learn to love that camera, which I didn't. I really had to learn to be able to connect to that camera. And I think, I talked about the sacred stage before. There's this thing, I call it the sacred 8. And it's this figure 8 of connection between you and another human. And to me, that's the most sacred thing of all. And I think that as a speaker, my job is to connect no matter where I am. And it's incumbent upon me, I may like that live format, but if there are people out there and they need what I've got to offer, I have to do everything in my can to reach them, to let that figure 8 of energy, and that's a back and forth of energy, like Des was saying. You're always wanting to be able to find a way to finish out that 8 and constant connection back and forth. So I like to, if I do any kind of, I have to do everything I can to humanize what I'm doing. Let me put it like that. When I'm working virtually, I like to use people's names. Before Zoom, You know, I didn't have the option sometimes to have people's faces up there. You know, I do everything I can to bridge that gap and build that figure 8.
Great. Thank you very much. Let's bring Judy Carter back. I want to ask a question to Judy start and then see if other people want to handle it. And Judy, this is about how do we get people to attend these events? It's the marketing portion of it. What would you like to share on that?
Yeah, you know, when I train people to do they want to have a speaking career, and they go to pick their topic, and it's like, who's going to, you know, see your speech? Or it's the same thing with writing a book. Who's going to buy your book? And they usually go like, well, people in the workplace. Well, you know, that's not niche enough. You really have to know who is your audience, okay? And so I always tell people, like, okay, let's say you're going to do a speech in a month. Who are you going to call? Who's in your phone that you could call and say, hey, I like to speak for free. Can you set it up? You know me, you know, I'll be great. And then you go, oh, well, I could do it at work. Or then they go, oh, well, you know, I'm a member of this lodge, or that's where you start. You start with people you know. You start with your Facebook following. You start with your Twitter or your Instagram following. Twitter's not as effective. I find Facebook extremely effective. You might want to start with, if you really want to do it really cheap and easy and not buy anything, and you have a phone, just do a Facebook Live. Facebook Live is you just go Facebook Live on your phone and you go, hey, everybody, and talk to your people. I have some really valuable information, and talk about their pain. I know you guys, you know, you always promote it by talking about the problem you have. You have to solve a problem, you know. So let's just say you are speaking on, let's say, a Frank King kind of topic on mental health right now, and suicide prevention, which is what Frank King talks about. I would start it with, you know, how many of you are having real difficulties at home? You know, I understand that we're stuck together. We never have enough space. People are at each other. How do we survive this without going into a depression? On my webinar today, I'm going to show you the 3 steps to avoid depression. So whatever you talk about, it really has to address the problem that your audience has. So if you put out some Facebook Live and say, hey, join me, I'm doing it because I want to make the world a better place. I want to help you guys. That's an example. So you have to find that bridge from your topic to what's going on in the world. Now, it doesn't all have to be coronavirus related, but you might want to think about the problems that people are having now, like Henry did. You showed up at this. Why did you show up this? Because it's changed. We're not getting speaking gigs. You have to learn how to do webinars. Wow, if I don't learn how to do this, I'm going to be left in the dust. I better attend Henry's webinar. So think about what made you come to this webinar, and then do the same thing that Henry did, right?
Well, and that's a lead in. Thanks. So, and scene. This is the start of the conversations. This isn't the end of the conversation. So if any of you would like to be on a conversation like this, send me an email. And send me an email with what you want to talk about. And it's henry@indiebooksintl.com. So we're lining up more. Some very famous authors have been approaching me in the last week saying, I want to help your people. I'll speak for free. When do you want to do it? So I think one of the reasons we're being generous is that we know the more generous we are, the more helpful we are, the luckier we get in business. The more people we help, the better it goes down. So I want to help you. So that's something we're going to do with these conversations. The other thing is, Devin and I, we've been invited to speak at different places virtually. We're going to be doing something on April 2nd on how to use LinkedIn to get people to your events. And we have we have definite views on that. And Devin and I are one mind on that. Sometimes we vehemently agree with each other. I must vehemently agree with you, Devin. So we're going to be sharing that. We'll look for opportunities to include you. I know I'm doing my summits, my book summits virtually. I can't go to Detroit and be with Eleni on April 14th. We're still doing it. And Eleni has been invited to be a guest speaker. I can't go to New York on April 29th. I'll be in New York later when I can. Alan Cohen, you're invited if you want to present on that. Ostrid in New York, even though we could have somebody from anywhere, we're still keeping the local feel and saying, well, we couldn't come to Michigan, we still want to help you with your problems. So there's all these things. Bottom line, give. One of our authors asked me about it, and I said, well, first, you got to give. Just be generous and give. We're all in this together. Although Lily Tomlin said we're all in this alone. I prefer that we're all in this together. So this has been a great call. It's 4:51. I want to get one more question in. And it's an equipment question. So I think I'm going to go back to Judy again. And the question, Judy, is about webcam preferences, recommendations, cost range for all equipment. I'll just speak for ours. Devin, don't kill me.
Well,
No, don't do that.
All right, I'll answer that. Here is the mic that, one second. Here is the mic that I have, and it looks like it's $79. You know, that's not going to set you back. I think the camera, you know, you could just read reviews. This is Logitech is what I have. It's an HD. What is mine? I can't. It's Logitech. The one reason I like Logitech is that it has great controls for setting white balance, contrast, zooming in, zooming out, whatever. It sits right on top of my camera. And let's see, I think this one's $250. That's what it is. So this was more expensive. Anyway, you could check around, who knows. So, and somebody else replied that it's really good to have the camera at eye level because I'm so short, it's so hard to do at eye level. But that's also a very good tip as well.
Good, thank you very much, Judy. Also, Devin has recommendations. She's going to put the links in the file that she sends out on this. Also, if you just want to email Devin at Indie Books International, she has recommendations on lights, the webcam, other things too. But we spent $100 on the O-ring light. We spent $45 on the webcam. Similar to what Judy did on the microphone. I'm not using the microphone right now, but that's all that cost. I used the headphones and the mic when I was doing podcasts. Judy didn't like it when I did it with the webinar with her because I looked like an ABC sportscaster coming in with the headphones and the mic. So
no, you look like Princess Leia in Star Wars. I think.
It was a two-bun deal. Two-bun deal. It was a BOGO. Okay. The last thing, and I'm going to go to Dez and then Eleni on it, is length, suggested length. So let's bring Dez up first. This is a new world. We know that live, the maximum time is like a 3-hour seminar. And then sometimes you break it into 90 minutes. If you present, though, online, we feel it should be compressed. Do you think 45 minutes is the right length? 30 minutes?
Yeah. Yeah.
What did you think of the format? I'm sorry. What did you think of the format where we had multiple speakers today? And I'm okay with whatever you say. Go ahead.
Yeah, actually, I was going to suggest, an hour tops. And I like the format that you had here. I think one of the things that made this easy to digest is that you had multiple speakers. And so I'm not sure that, you know, our audience members or even myself would be able to pull that off with multiple speakers. Usually you would be the only person speaking, but I would say an hour. And one of the things that's also interesting and something that I'm still trying to navigate right now is how to give your audience a break during the presentation. So I think we still need to be mindful of that people need to use the restrooms and things like that. But in an optimal situation, let's say if you did 45 minutes, and if you took a 5-minute break in between and you just did 2 20-minute sessions, you know, if you could get the presentation compressed into that 45-minute window, I think that helps you in terms of the advertising. So when you let people know that, hey, it'll be 45 minutes as opposed to an hour, just has a different sound, different feel, kind of like $1.99 as opposed to $2. But as Eleni said beautifully, you know, whatever time that you have available in front of your audience, as a presenter, you know, you just have to make the adjustment and bring it. But to answer your question specifically, I'd say 45 minutes is probably the sweet spot.
I think that you just turned me on, Henry. I cannot hear you, just so you know, but I can see your lips moving.
Hi, Eleni.
Hi.
So same question to you. What
Yeah.
format?
Well, again, it completely depends on what the presentation is, what its intention is, who the audience is, and what you're there to do. If you're doing a webinar, if you want to think of it using those words, that's one thing. But if you're doing a training, I do a lot of trainings. If you're doing a training that takes time, in my opinion, break it up. I would rather break up what would typically be a full day training into modules over 2 days, let's say, or even 3 days, just to give people that break. Because you can still do full scale trainings, you can still do presentations of all lengths. It's just that people get antsy. I did my coaching training, doing a whole series of online, very interactive sessions. I mean, it was training, and we broke it up over time. And I think that's a good way to go. I think people can probably manage 3 hours for a training, but I think for a webinar scenario, I think 50 minutes to 60 minutes is plenty. I really do.
Okay. Well, let's bring it back to me and I'll close it. I just wanted to mention that I've spoken and have sold trainings in the hour to 2 hour range for $1,000 to $2,000. This is corporate gigs. And I'm overjoyed that I don't have to fly to Topeka, Kansas to deliver that in person. So think about that. There's new delivery models. We're going to have to get good at this. Before this call, I probably would have kept them on the phone for 90 minutes. Now I think it's going to be 45, take a 15-minute break, we reconvene. Those were great suggestions. Thank you for everybody. This is how you applaud virtually. So could we all applaud for our speakers? Thank you so much for being here. And thank you for your generosity. So it's scary out there. It's hard. We're all going to get through this together. Thank you for being part of the family. We really appreciate you. So goodbye, everybody, and look for future messages. We'll talk soon. Bye-bye.